Hello everybody, this is Demographia. I'm finally back, and this video will obviously be about African people. So, African people are one of the many races on Earth. African people mainly live in Africa, with most living in Senegal, the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, Niger, Mali, Libya, Sudan, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, Somalia, Kenya, Uganda, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Central African Republic, Congo, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Sao Tome and Principe, Cape Verde, Angola, Zambia, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Malawi, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, Lesotho, Eswatini, Comoros, Seychelles, Suriname, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Although people usually use black to refer to African people, it's not always a good term since black is more about skin color than race, and many Oceanian people could be called black. However, when I'm talking about African people, I'm talking about sub-Saharan African people, not North African people who are part of the Middle Eastern race, which I will talk about in my next video. African people are in general relatively tall. Their skin color is dark brown. Their eyes are usually dark brown or black. They have a relatively long skull and don't have prominent brow ridges. They have flat, broad noses and thick and projecting lips. They have black hair which is short, woolly, crisp, or kinky, and scanty on the body. African people are divided into several ethno-linguistic groups, the largest one being the Bantu one, followed by the Western Sudanic, Chadic, Nilotic, African American, Chadic, Eastern Sudanic, Abyssinian, Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Latin American, Omotic, African Pygmy, Swahili, and Khoisan ones. So, as you can see, there are many different types of African people. In total, there are around 974 million African people. Bantu peoples mainly live in Mozambique, Malawi, Equatorial Guinea, Lesotho, Comoros, most of Angola, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Eswatini, Burundi, Rwanda, Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Central African Republic, Gabon, and Tanzania, Eastern South Africa, Southern Kenya, Southern Uganda, and Southeastern Cameroon, and parts of Namibia and Botswana. Western Sudanic peoples mainly live in Senegal, the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Togo, most of Liberia, Benin, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria, southern Mali, and northwestern Cameroon. The Chadic peoples mainly live in most of Djibouti, Somalia, Ethiopia, eastern Eritrea, northeastern Kenya, and parts of Sudan. Nilotic peoples mainly live in most of South Sudan, western Kenya, northern Uganda, southern Sudan, parts of Chad, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Tanzania. African American people mainly live in parts of the United States. Chadic peoples mainly live in parts of Niger, Nigeria, and Chad. Eastern Sudanic peoples mainly live in most of Chad, southern Libya, eastern Niger, western Sudan, and parts of the Central African Republic, South Sudan, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Nigeria. Abyssinian peoples mainly live in northwestern Ethiopia and western Eritrea. Afro-Caribbean people mainly live in Jamaica, Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts, Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, most of Suriname, Haiti, the Bahamas, and Trinidad and Tobago, and parts of Panama, Costa Rica, Belize, the Dominican Republic, Guyana, and France. Afro-Latin American people mainly live in parts of Colombia. Omotic peoples mainly live in parts of Ethiopia. African Pygmy peoples mainly live in parts of Congo. Swahili people mainly live in parts of Somalia. And Khoisan people mainly live in parts of Botswana and Namibia. Out of the African people, around 324,400,000, or 33.9%, are Protestants. Around 311,200,000, or 32.5%, are Muslims. 194,500,000 or 20.3% are Catholics, around 48,900,000 or 5.1% are Orthodox, around 39,800,000 or 4.2% are pagans, around 38,600,000 or 4% are atheists, and around 800,000 are Mormons. The largest African ethno-linguistic group are the Bantu peoples. There are around 384,900,000 Bantu peoples. It means that Bantu peoples make up 39.5% of African people. Bantu people speak Bantu languages, which are part of the Southern Bantoid languages, which are part of the Benue Congo languages, which are part of the Atlantic Congo languages, which are part of the Niger Congo languages. So, although the origins of Southern Bantoid, Benue Congo, and Atlantic Congo and Niger Congo peoples is unknown, the origins of Bantu peoples is known. The origins of Bantu peoples is in Cameroon between around 3000 BC and 1. Then, during the Bantu expansion, they moved south and east. They'd reach Angola by around 500 BC, and by around 300, they'd reach South Africa. Out of the Bantu peoples, around 45.8% are Protestants, around 30.9% are Catholics, around 12.2% are Muslims, around 5.9% are atheists, around 5.1% are pagans, and around 0.1% are African Zionists. For those of you who don't know, African Zionism is basically a combination of paganism and Christianity. The largest Bantu people are the Hutu people. There are around 18,500,000 Hutu people. Hutu people mainly live in Rwanda, Burundi, the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, and northwestern Tanzania. Hutu people speak Rwanda-Rundi. The second largest Bantu people are the Zulu people. There are 13,300,000 Zulu people. Zulu people mainly live in southeastern South Africa and speak Zulu. The third largest Bantu people are the Xhosa people. There are 9,200,000 Xhosa people. Xhosa people mainly live in southern South Africa and speak Xhosa. Then there are the Western Sudanic peoples. There are around 291,900,000 Western Sudanic peoples. This means that Western Sudanic peoples make up 30% of African people. Western Sudanic peoples aren't an ethno-linguistic group and speak all Niger-Congo languages apart from Bantu languages. These include Devaka, the Dogon languages, Mande languages, Ijar languages, Kordofanian languages, Katla languages, Rashad languages. Out of the Atlantic Congo languages, there's Siamu, Sua, Gola, Limba, the Lofofa languages, Talodi Haben languages, Sinufo languages, Kru languages, Senegambian languages, Mel languages. Out of the Volta Congo languages, Lal, Mbre, Ukan, Iga, Savannah's languages, Fali languages, Kwa languages, Volta Niger languages, and out of the Benue Congo languages, Fale Baisa and Tita. The origins of the Sinufu people is between around 1400 and 1600 in Mali. Between 1600 and 1900, they moved into northeastern Ivory Coast, southwestern Burkina Faso, and western Ghana. The origins of the Mande people is around 5000 BC in western Africa. The origins of Dogon people is in southwestern Mali before moving further east in Mali between around 1400 and 1500. Now, out of the Western Sudanic peoples, around 53.2% are Muslims, around 19.7% are Protestants, around 16% are Catholics, around 10.3% are pagans, and around 0.8% are atheists. The largest Western Sudanic people are the Fula people. There are around 48,700,000 Fula people. Fula people mainly live in central Nigeria, western Cameroon, northern Benin, northern Togo, northern Burkina Faso, southern Mali, Senegal, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, and northern Sierra Leone. And so as you can see, they're basically scattered all over West Africa, and they speak Fula. The second largest Western Sudanic people are the Yoruba people. There are around 42,100,000 Yoruba people. Yoruba people mainly live in southwestern Nigeria, southern Benin, and southeastern Togo. Yoruba people obviously speak Yoruba. The third largest Western Sudanic people are the Igbo people. There are around 34,400,000 Igbo people. Igbo people mainly live in southeastern Nigeria and speak Igbo. Then we have the Cushitic peoples. There are around 80,700,000 Cushitic peoples. This means that Cushitic peoples make up 8.3% of African peoples. Cushitic peoples are known for their lighter skin compared to most African people. Cushitic people speak Cushitic languages, which are a part of the Afro-Asiatic languages. The origins of Afro-Asiatic peoples is between around 16,000 BC and 7,500 BC. However, nobody knows where they came from. Could be the Levant, the Red Sea area, North Africa, or the Sahara. The origins of Cushitic peoples is unknown. Out of the Cushitic peoples, around 37.9% are Protestants, around 25.1% are Muslims, around 21.5% are Orthodox, around 13.7% are Catholics, around 1.6% are pagans, and around 0.2% are atheists. The largest Cushitic people are the Oromo people. There are around 34,800,000 Oromo people. Oromo people mainly live in southwestern Ethiopia and central Kenya. Oromo people speak Oromo. The second largest Cushitic people are the Somali people. Around 16,100,000 Somali people. Somali people mainly live in Somalia, eastern Ethiopia, and eastern Kenya, and Somali people speak Somali. The third largest Chadic people are the Sidama people. There are around 4,100,000 Sidama people. Sidama people mainly live in southwestern Ethiopia, and Sidama people speak Sidama. Then we have the Nilotic peoples. There are around 49,600,000 Nilotic peoples. This means that Nilotic peoples make up 5.1% of African people. Nilotic peoples are known for their extremely dark brown skin. Nilotic people speak Nilotic languages, which are a part of Eastern Sudanic languages, which are a part of Nilo-Saharan languages. Though the origins of Nilo-Saharan and Eastern Sudanic peoples is unknown, the origins of Nilotic peoples is known. The origins of Nilotic peoples is in Kenya between around 3000 BC and 2000 BC. Then they moved out to South Sudan between around 2000 BC and 1000 BC, and to Western Kenya between around 1000 BC and 500 BC. Finally, they moved into Southern Sudan, not to be confused with South Sudan, around 1500. Out of the Nilotic peoples, around 34.2% are Protestants, around 28% are Catholics, around 23.2% are Muslims, around 10.4% are pagans, around 3.3% are Orthodox, and around 0.9% are atheists. The largest Nilotic people are the Luo people. There are around 8,300,000 Luo people. Luo people mainly live in western Kenya, northern Uganda, and northeastern Tanzania, and Luo people speak Luo. The second largest Nilotic people are the Kalenjin people. There are around 5,900,000 Kalenjin people. Kalenjin people mainly live in western Kenya, and Kalenjin people speak the Kalenjin languages. And the third largest Nilotic people are the Dinka people. There are around 4,400,000 Dinka people, and Dinka people mainly live in northeastern South Sudan and speak Dinka. Then there are the African American people. There are around 42,300,000 African American people. This means that African American people make up 4.3% of African people. African American people aren't an ethno-linguistic group, but are an ethnic group who were formed by the descendants of African slaves in the United States. Therefore, they speak the language of their former owners, which is obviously English. The origins of African American people is between around 1600 and 1800, when African slaves of many different ethnicities were brought to the United States during the Atlantic slave trade. There they mixed and formed this group. Out of the African American people, around 50.7% are Protestants, around 24.9% are atheists, around 22.7% are Catholics, and around 1.7% are Mormons. Then there are the Chadic peoples. There are around 40,400,000 Chadic peoples. This means that Chadic peoples make up 4.1% of African peoples. Chadic peoples speak Chadic languages, which are a part of Afro-Asiatic languages. Oh, by the way, strange side note is that actually most Chadic peoples don't even live in Chad, but outside of Chad. So, the origins of Chadic peoples is in the Levant, strangely enough, around 5000 BC, before moving to the area around Lake Chad. Out of the Chadic peoples, around 63.6% are Muslims, around 21.5% are Protestants, around 7.7% are Catholics, and around 7.2% are pagans. The largest Chadic people are the Hausa people. There are around 39,600,000 Hausa people. Hausa people mainly live in northern Nigeria and southwestern Niger. Hausa people speak Hausa. Second largest Chadic people are the Kamwe people. There are around 700,000 Kamwe people. Kamwe people mainly live in northeastern Nigeria and northern Cameroon and speak Kamwe. The third largest people are the Ngas people. There are around 400,000 Ngas people, and they mainly live in northern Nigeria and speak Ngas. Then there are the the Eastern Sudanic peoples. There are around 38,600,000 Eastern Sudanic peoples. This means that Eastern Sudanic peoples make up 4% of African people. Just like the Western Sudanic peoples, the Eastern Sudanic peoples aren't an ethno-linguistic group, speak Nilo-Saharan languages apart from Nilotic languages. These include Berta languages, Fora languages, Gumuz languages, Koman languages, Kuliak languages, Kunama languages, Maban languages, Saharan languages, Songhai languages, Central Sudanic languages, Nubian languages, Eastern Jebel languages, Kadu languages, Mimi of the Gors, and Shabo. Out of the Eastern Sudanic languages, there are the Northeastern Sudanic languages, and out of the Southern Eastern Sudanic languages, there are the Surmic languages, Daju languages, and Tamain languages. So yeah, lots of languages. The origins of Eastern Sudanic peoples is unknown, And out of the Eastern Sudanic peoples, around 44.1% are Muslims, around 26.6% are Protestants, around 23% are Catholics, around 4.2% are pagans, and around 2.1% are atheists. Now, the largest Eastern Sudanic people are the Kanuri people. There are around 9,800,000 Kanuri people. Kanuri people mainly live in northeastern Nigeria and southeastern Niger. Kanuri people speak Kanuri. The second largest Eastern Sudanic people are the Songhai people. There are around 5,200,000 Songhai people. Songhai people mainly live in southwestern Niger and speak Songhai languages. The third largest Eastern Sudanic people are the Sara people. There are 4,200,000 Sara people. Sara people mainly live in southern Chad, northern Central African Republic, and southwestern Sudan. And Sara people speak Sara languages. Then next there are the Abyssinian peoples. There are around 37 million Abyssinian peoples. This means that Abyssinian peoples make up 3.8% of African people. Abyssinian peoples, just like Chadic peoples, have lighter skin than most African people. Abyssinian people speak Ethiopian Semitic languages, which are a part of South Semitic languages, which are a part of West Semitic languages, which are a part of Semitic languages, which are a part of Afro-Asiatic languages. The origins of Semitic peoples is between around 3,800 BC and 3,300 BC. However, nobody knows where they came from, and there are many theories about it, with some saying they came from the Levant, Mesopotamia, Arabia, North Africa, or the Mediterranean. Anyways, they moved to the Horn of Africa between around 800 BC and 700 BC, and the origins of Western Semitic peoples is unknown. The origins of South Semitic peoples is in southern Arabia or Ethiopia, and the origins of Abyssinian peoples is in northern Ethiopia and Eritrea between around 3000 BC and 1000 BC. Now, out of the Abyssinian peoples, around 43.5% are Orthodox, around 35.5% are Muslims, around 16.9% are Protestants, around 2.7% are pagans, and around 1.3% are Catholics. Now, the largest Abyssinian people are the Amhara people. There are around 27,600,000 Amhara people. Amhara people mainly live in northwestern Ethiopia. Amhara people speak Amharic. The second largest Abyssinian people are the Tigrayan people. There are around 8,800,000 Tigrayan people. Tigrayan people mainly live in northwestern Ethiopia and western Eritrea, and Tigrayan people speak Tigrinya. The third largest Abyssinian people are the Gurage people. There are around 3,100,000 Gurage people. Gurage people mainly live in central Ethiopia and speak the Gurage languages. Next, we have the Afro-Caribbean people. There are around 18,700,000 Afro-Caribbean people. This means that Afro-Caribbean peoples make up 1.9% of African people. Just like African American people, Afro-Caribbean people aren't an ethno-linguistic group, but are an ethnic group who are formed by the descendants of African slaves in the Caribbean. Afro-Caribbean people therefore speak the languages of the former owners, or Creoles, which are languages that develop from a mixture of different languages pretty quickly. These include Bahamian Creole, Jamaican Patois, Haitian Creole, Spanish, Bajan Creole, St. Lucian Creole, Tobagonian Creole, Trinidadian Creole, French, Guyanese Creole, Dutch, Sri-Lankan, and Caribbean Hindustani. The origins of Afro-Caribbean people is between around 1500 and 1800, when African slaves of many different ethnicities were brought to the Caribbean during the Atlantic slave trade. There they mixed and formed this group. Out of the Afro-Caribbean people, around 46.3% are Catholics, around 34.3% are Protestants, around 17.1% are atheists, around 1.7% are pagans, and around 0.6% are Muslims. Then there are the Afro-Latin American people. There are around 13,800,000 Afro-Latin American people. This means that Afro-Latin American people make up 1.4% of African people. Afro-Latin American people aren't an ethno-linguistic group, just like all the guys I just mentioned, but are an ethnic group that was formed once again by the descendants of African slaves in Latin America. Afro-Latin American people therefore speak the languages of their former owners. These are Portuguese in Brazil and Spanish for the rest of them. The origins of Afro-Latin Americans is between 1550 and 1800, when African slaves of many different ethnicities were brought to Latin America during the Atlantic slave trade. There they mixed and formed this group. Out of the Afro-Latin American people, around 69.7% are Catholics, around 20.6% are Protestants, around 8.3% are atheists, and around 1.3% are pagans. Then are the Omotic peoples. There are around 5,100,000 Omotic peoples. This means that Omotic peoples make up 0.5% of African people. Just like Chadic and Abyssinian peoples, Omotic peoples have lighter skin than most African people. Omotic people speak Omotic languages, which are part of Afro-Asiatic languages. The origins of Omotic peoples is unknown. Out of the Omotic peoples, 43.5% are Orthodox, 33.9% are Muslims, 18.6% are Protestants, 3.3% are pagans, and 0.7% are Catholics. The largest Omotic people are the Walaita people. There are around 2 million Walaita people. Walaita people mainly live in southwestern Ethiopia and speak Walaita. The second largest Omotic people are the Gamo people. There are 2 million Gamo people. Gamo people mainly live in southwestern Ethiopia and they speak Gamo Gofa Dauro. The third largest Omotic people are the Manja people. There are around 800,000 Manja people. Manja people mainly live in southwestern Ethiopia and speak Kafa. Then there are the African Pygmy peoples. There are around 1,200,000 African Pygmy peoples. This means that African Pygmy peoples make up only 0.1% of African people. African Pygmy peoples are known for being extremely short, which is of course why they are called Pygmies. African Pygmy peoples are not an ethno-linguistic group as they speak many different languages. African Pygmy peoples surprisingly do not speak their own languages but instead speak Bantu languages, Central Sudanic languages, and Ubangian languages. The origins of African Pygmy peoples is between around 168,000 BC and 98,000 BC. Out of the African Pygmy peoples, around 42.9% are Catholics, 42.9% are Protestants, and 14.3% are Muslims. The largest African Pygmy people are the Great Lakes Twa. There are around 200,000 Great Lakes Twa. Great Lakes Twa mainly live in central Rwanda and central Burundi, and Great Lakes Twa speak Kirundi and Kiga. The second largest African Pygmy people are the Mbuti people. There are around 35,000 Mbuti people. Mbuti people mainly live in the northeastern Democratic Republic of the Congo and speak Lese, Asoa, and Bila. The third largest African Pygmy people are the Baka people. There are around 18,000 Baka people. Baka people mainly live in northern Congo, eastern Gabon, and southeastern Cameroon and speak Baka. Then there are the Swahili people. There are around 1,600,000 Swahili people. This means that Swahili people make up 0.2% of African people. Swahili people also aren't an ethno-linguistic group, but are an ethnic group. Swahili people speak Swahili, which is part of the Sabaki languages, which is part of the Northeast Coast Bantu languages, which is part of the Northeast Bantu languages, which is part of the Bantu languages. Origins of Sabaki, Northeast Coast Bantu, and Northeast Bantu peoples is unknown, but the origins of Swahili people is known. Origins of Swahili people is between around 400 and 600, when Bantu peoples moved to Kenya and Tanzania. Out of the Swahili people, around 35.4% are Muslims, around 31.3% are Catholics, around 30.3% are Protestants, around 2% are pagans, and around 1% are atheists. And finally, there are the Khoisan peoples. There are around 600,000 Khoisan peoples. Khoisan people speak Ko languages, Ksa languages, Tu languages, and Sandawe. The origins of Ko peoples is in Angola around 1 before they moved into Botswana. However, the origins of Ksa, Tu, and Sandawe peoples is unknown. Basically, all Khoisan peoples are Protestants. The largest Khoisan people are the Damara people. There are around 200,000 Damara people. Damara people mainly live in northwestern Namibia and speak Koko. No, not the cocoa that you drink, the other cocoa. The second largest Khoisan people are the Nama people. There are around 100,000 Nama people. Nama people mainly live in Namibia, so you can kind of guess where the name of Namibia came from, and they also speak Koko. The third largest Khoisan people are the Sandawe people. There are around 60,000 Sandawe people. Sandawe people mainly live in northern Tanzania, and they speak Sandawe. Okay guys, thank you so much for listening to this video. I know it was very, very long, but I hope you learned something about African people, and yep. Anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next month. Bye.